day with the need to spontaneously and succinctly convey our thoughts, ideas, and opinions. And those who do it well get the next job, get the next promotion. But more importantly, you get to influence those around you by thinking and speaking quickly on your feet. So you have the methods: message first, story later. You have pros and cons. You have, what else?
Prep.
You have prep, the prep method, and then 5 W's plus H. Do you have to use these? No. But when you're frozen in your thought process, it gives you a way to break out of that and puts you into a thought process to break out of it. You can merge them together. But what you really want to do is take that moment to think quickly and don't answer immediately. Immediately can be 3, 4, 5 seconds later. Give yourself, let your mind do some of the work for you. So we're going to break into table topics. And we're going to do 1-minute table topics so we can get more people involved. I'll do the timing so you don't have to worry about it. I'll give you a 5-second warning when the 1 minute is coming up. And then we'll talk about some things that were in there. So who would like to be the first table topics? Come on.
All right, Thomas.
Everybody's checking us at me.
You're up front.
If anybody does not want to be recorded doing this, just let me know.
I tell you, but I think it's too
You
late.
get a minute too. No.
All right. I'm picking these randomly, by the way. If you won a contest in which your prize was to select any 3 guests to appear on a popular late-night talk show, which 3 people would you choose?
Thank you for your question. That's a really excellent question. So if I had to choose 3 people that I wanted on a late night talk show, I would choose my dad. I would choose Frank Sinatra. And I would choose Mike Harris. There's a reason why I chose these 3. It's because after you lose somebody that's very special to you, there are moments that you want back.
It's a 5-second one.
And I want those moments back with my dad. I think Mike could help me get that, and we would play some Frank Sinatra records.
So how did that feel?
Honestly, I was going back to the old methods you say not to do. So I was trying to formulate what I learned from you, and that's why I had a little bit extra hesitation, but actually I enjoyed it. Because I think I didn't go through you talking about the checklist. So I think that was a big thing for me, and I like that I corrected that and not using it anymore.
And you're training your mind. You're building the right habits. So this takes time, it takes practice, and you can practice pulling out questions. All you have to do is go on the internet and put table topics. There'll be questions out the wazoo. And you can practice them and just read them and try to answer them yourself. And you were given a very interesting one by giving you the need to answer 3. And I will ask again, is there a right or a wrong answer to that?
No.
No. Then you should have the confidence to be able to reel off 3 names. And what you can do is you can go in and give each one of those the reason as it's coming up. It actually teaches your mind. You may not know the third person, but by the time you got to the third person, your mind does work wonders, and you'd be able to get to that third person. But I liked how you brought it in at the end back to all of us. Granted, we're going to be rushed with 1 minute, but by bringing it back to the audience, it enables us to know, oh, okay, I now care why you care about Mike Harris. and now it brings all of us into this. All right, who's up next? Come on up, Nancy.
All right, Nancy.
All right. Oh. If you could uninvent any past invention, which one would it be? And consider all the ramifications of eliminating this invention. And if these are too tough, I'll pull a different one if you want.
That is a tough one. I think if I could uninvent one invention, you kind of put this in my mind, I think I might uninvent the cell phone. And the reason is because I love the convenience of the cell phone. I think I was kind of late to adopt the cell phone, and I find myself using it all the time now. And I think I'm understanding what people mean about how it can become an addiction. So I would eliminate the cell phone to help myself, and I think that it would change the world in some ways. I think people might communicate a little bit more. I think being forced to be having the inconvenience of not being able to reach people every single minute might be kind of relaxing for me. I mean, I don't know about how other people feel, but I'm not a brain surgeon and I don't deliver babies, so I don't think people don't have to reach me every single second. Thank you.
And how did that feel?
I didn't feel like I came up with a good, I mean, I love your method, but it was hard for me to adopt it with that question. It might just be because it's table topics. I'm like scared of table topics, and so, you know, I might just take some practice. When you asked Tom his question, I came up with something right away.
You know how many times I've driven home after a conference kicking myself saying, I should have said it, over and over and over. But what's interesting is because you're also trying to put labels on these things. These are methods that you should practice over time. And when it's 1 minute, it gets a little bit more crunch. But the reality is you don't have to put 3 stories in a minute. You maybe cut it to 1 or 2. And what I would tell you is take a step back and take a breath. Because conceptually, you went down the pros and cons method. You brought us back to cell phones. You talked about how we're not present collectively as a world. And the only thing I would change is to bring the audience in. You started to do that by saying, hey, maybe all of us can do that. Is make it obvious that you're talking to the audience. And ask a rhetorical question. How many of you have actually been in the present this week? And if you ask it like that, all of a sudden it becomes thought-provoking for us. And the rhetorical questions are very useful to bring the audience in. Or just where you said, hey, just the world. Instead of making it a generalization, make it, how about you guys? The audience. And that simple twist really engages the audience, because I think you're harder on yourself right now. You had concept, you had a story about yourself, and you brought the audience in. So you're very close to where you should be. All right, who's up next?
I really don't want to.
Almost everyone can recall a missed photo opportunity because he or she did not have a camera. What moment above all others do you wish you could have caught on film?
What moment would I want to have caught on film? It may not be above all others, but it's very recent. This weekend, I went to the Manchester workshop in New Hampshire for the the workshop. And somebody that I was going to come to my apartment because we were going to carpool, their car wouldn't start. And this was about 6 o'clock in the morning. And so, okay, we're going to be a little bit late, but I'll go get this person and, you know, we'll go ahead. worked out fine. We got there about 20 minutes later or so. This was a new car this person had recently bought, so kind of curious, what could have happened with the car? Why wasn't the car starting? And he just said, the key just wouldn't turn. I was like, okay, well, when I dropped him off, I asked him, I said, can we look at your car? And he trying to turn the ignition, and no, it won't turn. Well, it's like, can we just turn the steering wheel just a little bit, and voila.
Nicely done. Sergey, I've done that, so don't worry about it. How did that feel?
I was terrified, so I don't like table topics. I get really scared.
But why?
For me, I'm always like, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? What sounds stupid? What am I going to say? What's going to come out of my mouth? And that will trip me up every time. But I latched onto the story, and once I had the story, I was like, okay, no, this is an entertaining little story. So once I was a little jumpy in the beginning, but as I got into it, I started to relax and tell the story.
And you usually find that with table topics is we have whatever fear is creating this frozen thought, over time it thaws out. And then you get more comfortable. And one way to thaw it out is you almost went down this path and you've kind of repeated the question back. But why not have a conversation with the audience? Have you ever had one of those moments, those picture moments, and you don't have the camera? I have no idea what I'm about to say, but my mind is formulating the thought while I'm repeating the question back. So instead of, I don't want to call it wasting time, but your time is ticking away. So if you can use it to your advantage, and while you're doing this, you're formulating your story. The question I would ask is, what is your intention of your answer? Because 99% of the time with table topics, we think it's to entertain our fellow folks. But the reality is you have many other things that you can do with that story. Is it to inspire? Is it to motivate? Is it to entertain? Is it to have them bring back information? Is it to walk away with something? And again, you might be able to say, what do you want this audience to walk away with from this story? And all you have to do to cap it, and if granted we're rushing you with the 1 minute, but when you see that warning, you should come back and say, all right, now, so for all of you, when your car doesn't start, check the manual, and then drop the mic. And granted, I get to think of all these answers while I'm harassing you. But when you get that, what do you want the audience to walk away with? There's an index card before every contest that I keep in my pocket. And it says stage, message, audience. And the reason why I say that is because we do this in a table topics contest, or we do this waiting for the answer, and we spend the next 2 minutes standing right here as if our TED circle is this big. Why can't you do this? Stage. And when it comes to the message, we instantly think of the story, and I'm going to have the funniest story ever. And then we tell our story, and we say, well, maybe it was entertaining. I don't know. But why should they care? And if you don't answer why they should care, you're taking at least half the audience out of the equation. In a simple one sentence, a couple words can bring them in with an engaging question, a rhetorical question, or even just a comment to the general audience. And the other is message, what do I say? Stage, message, audience. So what do I want them to walk away with, and then make it about them. As much as I want to tell my story, it's not about them. All right, who's up next? All right, Sergey. If you were a songwriter drawing from recent experiences in your own life as material for your next big hit, what would be your song's title?
Thank you for this question. Table topics is my favorite part of the meeting, especially when I am the one that asks the questions. Not when I'm answering them. Now, I should play a composer, a person that writes songs. Well, what kind of song can I, probably I should, it should be something like, oh my God, why did I immigrate? Immigration is not a funny thing. This is a life-defining decision, and not everybody is, just getting the American success. People that in my country that know me, that think, oh, he's an American, he's dumb, he's he's rich, he's the top of his dreams, and so on and so forth. They have no idea. Anyway, so it's not gonna be very funny song, but probably with some funny elements so that we can entertain the public and don't make them cry.
That table topics was very much about you because of the emigration, but the reality is you brought us all in, and you brought us in through humor, and you were able to really tie the knot. And it's tough with only a minute to be able to tie that knot back together. But how did that feel?
If you heard my heart rate, that would well, my mind started racing, looking back and forth, for answers, and because this is a topic that is closer to my mind, that's why I decided to connect this possible song to this one. And now what I'm missing, because I was asked in the past similar questions, and I usually end up with the phrase, guys, if you ever immigrate, you probably should go to the moon. Because when you go, this is the United States of America, this is nowhere else to go, because this is the best of the best countries, so where should you go, So don't immigrate unless you go to the moon. Well, that's...
Do you have a favorite song artist? And if you don't,
when it comes to culture, I'm listening a lot to local radio stations. I can list several entertainers that I like, but you should take into account that I spent my only 45 years in another country, so I can list some names, but I'm sure that they're not going to tell anything.
But that's your answer. As we're talking about it, let us feel what you felt. And when you talk about the emigration, you can say, let me give you a song. It's very similar to Sergei from 40 years ago. He was this great artist in Russia, and take us down a path that we don't even know you're going to go. And that's the twist that you can add to it. And it's a lot easier to be able to say that 2 minutes after you've just answered the question. But there is no right or wrong answer to this. It's obviously a topic that means a lot to you. So you can answer it with confidence and take us on that ride with you. I know we keep talking about this fear and anxiety, this thing of table topics, and there's no way I'm going to volunteer next to come up here. You are. But it's about, it's about coming up here in a very protective, supportive environment and give an answer that you're going to kick yourself all the way home about when you shouldn't, because there is no right or a wrong answer to it. And it's about delivering it with confidence and walking out of here and drop the mic, because that's what it's really all about. You can be confidently wrong. You can be completely off base. You can not be funny. Take it any way you want, but confidence is going to rise with the audience when you rise it within yourself. Confidence is 90% of the battle when it comes to table topics. 90%. It's not even about the answer. And if you can deliver it with confidence, you'd be surprised how much more comes to mind, because you're part of the thing that's freezing your mind is that lack of confidence. When you build the confidence, your mind will be a little freer. So who's next? scent, what scent would you want it to be?
Wow.
There's this flower that blooms in the springtime in Portland, Oregon. It blooms here too. I'm horrible with flower names. But you all, lilacs. I think it's lilac. You all know it's that amazing fragrance. If rain could smell like that, that would be wonderful. I'd definitely take that. I'd also add in one other smell, which is actually the smell of rain in the desert, which is called petrichor. It's a beautiful smell in the desert, if you ever experienced it before. If you haven't, go to the desert.
You had no idea you were going to say petrichor until that very moment. But our minds do wonderful things. And as you were leading up through lilacs, and as you were trying to figure out what that name is, you're caught up in the right or the wrong. I have to give the word, whatever it is, lilac out there. And you can say, I have no idea what it is, but it's a really good smelling flower, and roll with it. Like, in your mind, and toward the end, you're like, lilac, and you can come back to it, and that can tie the knot for you. Because as you're thinking about this answer, because this is a trap question. And the trap question says, I'm going to answer it immediately, directly, and then I'm going to have to answer, now what? What is that smell? Lilac and desert smell. And you might be able to say, have any of you ever been out there? Have you ever been sitting in a desert when it starts raining? Because it doesn't happen that often. What might you do when you're there? Like, what happens when it rains in the desert? It just absorbs. And because it hasn't rained so much, the smell just wafts in the air. And where is the specific place where you had a chance to smell it? Why would you smell it? You can throw that one out the question. And when I was back there 20 years ago, is the last time I smelled rain in the desert. And to this day, I have that smell up here in my mind. If you never get the chance to do it, you're missing out on it. And how? Get yourself out there and find a time when it's going to rain in the desert, because it's a smell you can't miss. Just, you can walk yourself through the questions. You don't have to verbally answer them, but mentally walk through it. It'll take you quite nicely through the 1 minute. And your mind is a wonderful thing that will think quickly. You have to train your mind to think a little bit differently with these methods, but it's a chance to get you to think differently and practice. Go to questions, practice yourself, practice within your clubs, and make it obvious that you're going to try this method and put it out there. And then you walk through that method. It was a potential trap. I thought you did a nice job, especially when you sprung that desert one out there, because all you did was bridge it into another piece. All you have to do is tie it up. It was 40 seconds, and we're a little off on time here because it's only 1 minute. But once you now have 2 supporting pieces of information. And now you can tidy it up and relate it back to us and ask the question, why should this audience care? And the care is because it's one of those most magnificent smells you can ever have. And just tie it up. And it doesn't have to be too elaborate. Okay? Yeah, go ahead.
So what you mean by now what, the way I'm hearing that, at first I was hearing that as now what, so who, what, where, why, that's what you mean by it? Okay.
When I say now what, it's the 5 W's plus H.
Okay.
How would you, it allows you to methodically walk in your head what some of those answers might be.
It also seems like now what could be like, now what are you gonna do? Because it's a trap question, because I've given the answer, and that the way to avoid the trap is to have the answer come at the end, later.
Yes or no, yes and no. The now what means the words have already come from your mouth, and you are trapped.
Yeah.
And because what happens is we answer the question directly, and we say, where would you travel? Hawaii! Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's that uh-oh moment. Not a big deal. who, what, where, why, then, and how. So you can answer the now, what. It's not always on trap questions. If you're kind of unsure where you want to go, you can take who, what, where, why, when, and how along with you. But it's you don't. This is a very much of a trap question because it can be one of those one-word answer. What's a scent going to be? And then you say, all right, now where do I go from here? And then you have the other 59 seconds to go. And that's what you're trying to do is you're not worried about the time. You should worry about the story. And the 1 minute I'm giving you is it's intentional extra pressure on you to tidy up your message somewhere along in there. Yeah. And if you think in terms of message, story, wrap up, and think of it that quickly, see how long that really takes you to do it. And we are trained in 1 to 2 minutes, so I see where kind of your minds might be a little off. But think in terms of what do I want the audience to walk away with? What is a story I can tie in to support that message? And how do I wrap it up to ensure that the audience gets something out of this as well? Yes?
Are there other labels that you have for questions besides trap? Like, are there just other labels out there that... Okay.
No, I think most of the time, I think in terms of message first, story later. And when you think in terms of what do I want the audience to walk away with, the lesson I teach to everyone in public speaking is we as public speakers, we start off as selfish. And what do I mean by selfish?
Talking about yourself?
Internal. We're all selfish speakers. How do I look? How do I feel? How am I doing? I'm nervous. I don't want to be here. It's still all about you. But over time, you start to mature into a selfless speaker. And the most selfless speakers have the most success, meaning that they are making it about the audience. What's in it for them? They are answering the questions. They are reiterating key points that are important to the audience. They're willing to go down a different path if it's not working. If you go down this lilac path, you can say, wrong answer. And you can go down a different path very quickly. And you can say, yeah, I was just kidding about lilacs. And then you can go down that different path. What I'm teaching you is over time, you'll mature into a selfless speaker. By asking the question, what's in it for them? What is the message I want them to walk away with? And when you think of it in those terms, your answers, your thought process over time starts to change a little bit. That it's really not about you, although it's your story. But if you can tell your story and how it relates back to the audience, that's a win for everyone, and then you win out in their hearts and their minds. What do you say we do 2 more?
Yeah.
Come on up. When was the last time you laughed so hard that you cried?
The last time I laughed so hard that I almost cried was at home watching my 2 cats. They're really funny together. The funniest thing, I have a year-old cat and he loves Q-tips. And every time that I'm getting ready for work and I open up the cabinet, he comes running from somewhere, wants a Q-tip. So I give him a Q-tip and he starts with the Q-tip Olympics. You throw it to him and he'll jump and catch it and stick it in his mouth and run around like he's got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. He just goes crazy over the Q-tips. It's funny.
Nice. So you did something that I very much appreciated, and that is you thought. You didn't answer it. You came up with a story on what made you laugh. We patiently waited for you. And that thing, that thought process lasted maybe 5-10 seconds. Probably felt like a million years when you're standing here. But as a speaker, if you gain a little bit more patience that the audience does have for you, you can think it through a little bit longer. and the audience is going to be, you know, they always tell you, keep wanting them to have more. It's the same type of thing as when you're sitting here, I get more excited to hear what you're going to say. Now, the one thing I would have you do is, this is where this funky little lectern gets in the way all the time, is by hanging over here, you took half the audience completely out of your story. Because you're kind of hiding here. It was unintentional, intentional, I can't tell. But what you're doing is you're blocking off the audience, and part of it is a protective mechanism as a speaker, is we think that this thing's going to save us. It's really blocking you. Because as you got into the story, about 10 seconds in, it clicked what you were going to tell us about. And as soon as you said Q-tip, your whole world changed. Our whole world changed. And guess what? I think you like cats. And it became so obvious, I don't like cats. But I like your story about cats. I'm kidding, I'm a dog person. But it became one of those, something that you were very passionate about. And I can't let that point go away. You have to talk about something you love, you're passionate about, or that you know very well. It's that back pocket thing we were talking about. We all have these stories. And you were able, your story was simply to entertain us. And as soon as you started talking about Q-tips, you started to get a little bit more into the details. I gave him the Q-tip, and off he went. And he started building. And now we're more engaged in your story more than we ever have. You can tap it off just toward the end, maybe, by saying why it's important that cats should have Q-tips. You know, something along those lines as to why it's important to us. But that's how you cap it in, and that's how you allow us, that's how you turn it into a selfless type piece. But we were very engaged in your story overall. And you're still smiling. You're still smiling because you're telling a story about something that you're very passionate about. That's what Table Topics is all about, because you don't care if we care about cats or Q-tips. Because you told us a story that you very much enjoyed, and that's a part of the lesson, is you have to eventually enjoy what you're doing. And it's okay to be scared up here, but it's also okay to tell a story and relax a little bit, because as the story went on, you got a lot more relaxed. All right, let's do one more. Who's up?
You want to do? New persons?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Hey.
I'm Madison. I don't know if I've met everybody,
Madison.
but hi.
Hi. I knew you'd eventually come.
Great.
All right. As the Christmas/holiday season approaches, what song is it that you can't wait to hear, or I'll even impromptu the question and say one that you don't want to hear?
Oh gosh.
Your choice.
Yeah. So I love Christmas. I'm definitely Catholic, so that's in my soul. Love all religions, but yeah, I love Christmas. I have a lot of great memories around Christmas. But one of my favorite songs is a Kelly Clarkson song where she just goes like so high, it's ridiculous. It's not real. And the whole thing is just auto-tuned basically. But last Christmas, I was with my friend and we were driving around this neighborhood after a party, and we both wanted to hear the songs. We just blasted it. I can't even remember the name of it right now. And we just sang our hearts out, and I just can't wait. We've been like texting about it, and I'm like, I can't wait to hear a Kelly Clarkson song. So that'll be fun.
Excellent.
Yeah. You guys won't know what I'm talking about. Very high.
So how did that feel?
Like everything. I think that to be totally honest, I was a psych major. I think that what happens, and we all know this, but like the fight or flight thing, like, I mean, seriously, like my whole body is just like, we're gonna have a heart attack, okay? Because you're either gonna die or you're gonna have to keep talking. So I think that for me, I've got to learn how to like calm my body. I don't know if that's like deep breathing or something, but that's really, really hard for me. And it's probably exposure therapy. But
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll get it. I'll give you the mental and the physical pieces. Then on the mental side, you have to visualize your own success. As you're walking up, you have to believe that you can make a difference to us. And you have to think in terms of, all right, what can I do, not to impress us, but we're all in, we're a captive audience. We're already here for you. So if you start to believe that you can make a difference and visualize your own success, I mean, you think of it in terms of the Winter Olympics. You see the skiers, the bobsledders, the lugers doing this, visualizing themselves on the course, winning the gold medal, not winning the bronze, winning the gold. And then on the physical side, is as you're walking up, is take a deep breath in, hold for a 3 count, and breathe out. A lot of people do the in through one, out the other is another way to do that. But if you get very basic and just deep breaths in and out, and you can do this, Mike has seen me prepare for contests. He knows I've got my headset in, I'm playing a song, I won't tell you what it is. I've played it every time.
Probably the Kelly Clarkson. That'll amp you up.
Ashley Simpson. But the other is just your neck, your shoulders. You'd be surprised how much tension you have up here right now, especially when you get here. They've been in the middle of asking me a question, and I've done this before. Who cares? I'm not getting judged on this. I'm there. But loosen up a little bit. And there was a piece in there. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
I've always wanted to ask this question, and I wanted to preface it by saying I was taught this by Mike, I think. But
I'll correct.
It's like, what? He's like, I've been quiet all night. What?
But most audiences want you to be successful.
Sure.
And if you can tell yourself that, at least that helps me sometimes.
I've been in rooms where the audience was forced to be there. But the question you want to ask, or the point you want to make to yourself is, that shouldn't matter. That shouldn't be a negative. It should be, I should tell them something that they can't wait to hear. And it's still a positive component. And you've got to believe that you can make a difference. Because it's not, remember I was talking selfish, selfless thing? When you say, how do I look, how do I feel, how am I doing? Selfish. When you stop asking, how did I do mentally, and you start asking, do you think the audience was able to take something away today? That's when you win. Is the audience able to take something away today from my answer, my table topics? There's another piece that you had in there. You started to go down this religion path, and I was kind of curious where you go with it.
Dicey.
It was dicey, but you made a comment that said, but I love all religion.
Because I knew, I was like, oh my god, this is not the right time.
But did you hear how everyone just laughed?
It was cool.
Make it intentional.
Yeah.
I love every religion.
Yeah.
And make a big stinking deal of that path you were going down that you knew was wrong. There's nothing wrong with making a mistake and admitting it. It's where humor comes from, is usually from mistakes. Own it. And love it. And make a big... So, and we haven't talked a lot about voice inflection and gestures and those types of things. But most people, when they gave their response, haven't moved out of a 2-foot radius. And there's nothing wrong with taking the audience along with you. And even though I only have 1 to 2 minutes, your eyes are going to follow me along the way. And if you're anything like me, I like to get the juices flowing a little bit, get the blood flowing. And by walking casually, I'm able to actually think a little bit more clearly on my toes. No pun intended. But it's about thinking and being able. You have to figure out how you think. And don't be caught up by this thing. Don't let this thing hold you back, or don't let it force to where you are. And I'll say the same thing when it comes to the evaluation contest. 99% of the speakers will come up behind this thing to give their evaluation because it's there. And if you've ever seen me in an evaluation contest, the first thing I do is this. And all of a sudden, I am now a more memorable candidate in stating my evaluation simply by doing that. You are trying to make an impression on the judges. What are you going to do that's different? What are you going to do that's memorable? Bunch of years ago, the question at the district level that was given to me is, what would be your bucket list? Well, I knew that everyone was going to give some bucket list about where they want to travel, what they want to do. Everyone's going to give some type of content. So I simply said, I don't have a bucket list. And the audience went, huh? Because I should be living every day as if it is my own bucket list, and I went down that path. It takes people down. It's that curveball that you're able to throw. When they said, what was the other question that I got? The greatest technology you ever had. Well, people started to talk about real technology and stuff. I went down a different path, and I gave some answer about how my children sit and text each other while they're sitting on the couch. And I went into the pros and cons of technology. It wasn't necessarily the greatest technology. I didn't even answer the question, I don't think. But it's one of those things that, what are you going to do to be memorable? Is there a right or a wrong answer? And the answer most of the time is usually not a right or wrong answer. So what can you do to ensure that you leave a lasting impression on the audience, and what are they going to walk away with? And from there, you can take it anywhere you want. So best of luck in your table topics in the future. And any questions before we wrap? Comments? All right, back to you.
Yeah.